guys, welcome back to my channel. So today I'm going to be giving you a weekly recap of all the news and stuff that has been happening this past week. Now, this is not everything because there's honestly been so much going on this week, so much to talk about, so I did not include all of it because that would take forever. But yeah, so also if I'm looking over here, I do have notes over here just so I'm making sure I'm saying everything correctly and I'm not, you know, changing things, forgetting things. Like, I have everything written down. Also, my news source that I use is AP News. They are reliable. They are not left wing or right wing, so it is really not an opinionated news source. They kind of just tell you what's going on, and whatever you form from that, you form from it. But yeah, so if you want to further research into these, that's what I would recommend going and doing further research, and that is where I got all of these not articles, but that's where I got all of the news sources from, if that makes sense. That's where I'm getting all the information. So, first thing I'm going to talk about is Venezuela. Now, this article was more about what, like, people thought about it more than the situation itself, but I'm still going to give you a little bit of background information, like, so you know what's going on a little bit. And I mean, the article does that too, but it's not super in depth. Now, this article was released the 4th. So basically, if you didn't know, the US went into Venezuela and captured the Venezuelan president, brought him back to the US to charge him criminally. He was involved with something that had to do with drugs. Don't know if I can say that word, so we'll just spell it out. But yeah, so he had something to do involved with that. I don't really know all the details about it to the full extent, but I just know that he was brought here to be charged criminally. Now, Republicans honestly have had some concerns, which usually not very happen, doesn't really happen very often. Usually political parties have a tendency to support and, agree with a lot of things that their presidents or senators or stuff does. But in this case, there were Republicans who were really questioning it and had a lot of concerns about it. And one of the main reasons there were concerns is because Trump ran on Make America Great Again. Like, that was what he ran on. That was his slogan. It's huge. MAGA is what it's referred to. You know, huge for him. That was like a big focal point of his campaign. And now was seeing how he's not focusing on America and he's almost turning his attentions to another country. Which I'm all here for helping other countries. I mean, I want everybody to be living good lives in all of their countries. I want everyone to be living to the fullest of their extent that they could be. But at the same time, we have to focus on America first, make sure America's doing good. And right now, it's really not. There's a lot of problems within this country right now. And I feel like he's almost saying what he was going to do, focus on America, and what everything he ran on, he's basically going against it right now, and it's causing problems with people aren't really liking it. Now, Brian Fitzpatrick, he is a representative of PA. He is Republican too. He said how he thinks the only country that the US should be focusing on is the US, and I agree with his statement. I think, if we were doing fine economically, socially, if everything was, doing pretty good in the US, I understand wanting to help countries out. I get it though. But, sometimes that our help doesn't even work. It actually just makes things way worse. We've seen this in instances before, when it comes to the Middle East and stuff like that. It's only caused further problems. So I think I definitely get what he's saying. We should be focusing on the US first and then worry about helping other countries. Unless the other countries are directly affecting the US, then that's when I think something needs to be done. Something needs to happen. Now, Trump made comments about revitalizing the oil industry within Venezuela. Now, Venezuela, they have tons of oil that is in Venezuela that they don't really use, and they're not utilizing a lot of it. And Trump wants to use the oil, trade to other countries, sell it to other countries, keep it for the US. He just wants to bring back the oil industry in Venezuela. Now, surface level, this sounds great, but at the same time, it's not our oil. We can't just go in there and take their oil. If we want to pay them, get the oil from them, fine, that's fine. But we can't be going in there taking the oil. I'm not saying that's what he wants to do, but just the way that he made it sound like right after going in there taking the president, now saying we're running Venezuela, and now he wants to talk about the oil industry and how he wants to revitalize it in Venezuela, kind of sounds like he's trying to make decisions for a country that isn't the country that he is the president of. Now, Susanna Collins of Maine, she supported the idea of what we did with Venezuela. She supports Trump. She likes what he did with us. He thinks that it was, she thinks it was a good idea or whatever. Now, Rand Paul, he didn't really want to comment. He didn't really feel one way or the other. He wants to let time show, see what happens. I think that is a very valid, idea, because at the same time, this could be very positive. It could help the US and it could help Venezuela. Or it can just be a negative and then it's bad, but it can be good. It just depends on how things end up panning out. So I think waiting before making a final decision on how you feel about it is definitely valid, and it's a very good way of thinking. Now, last person we'll talk about is Senator Mitch McConnell. He did not necessarily disagree with Trump's actions. He also doesn't necessarily support it. He's just kind of doesn't disagree with it fully. So I feel like when I read his statement and how he felt about it, it was very hard for me to pick up what he was actually saying, if he actually supported it or not. But I'm leaning more towards the fact that he's not in support of it, but he's also not against the idea. He's middle ground, I feel like. So, yeah, overall, I think my thoughts on it, I'm all here for helping other countries. I always wanted to go to Venezuela. I've always wanted to travel there. I have no clue why, but I really have. And it really sucks, that they're having so many problems and there's just so much bad in that country. But I think at the same time, the US has tried helping other countries and it's only made the other countries worse. It's only, hurt them more, especially when it comes to countries when we got involved in the Middle East, when we overtook their officials and the government or whatever and helped, fight against it or whatever. There were just groups came in and these groups took over the country and completely changed everything. For an example, Afghanistan, look at how Afghanistan is now. They have so many problems. People don't even have basic rights over there. It's horrible. And one of those main causes is because, an idea we were trying to help, but it didn't really work out that way. And I'm scared that the same thing's going to happen to Venezuela. I know Venezuelan citizens were very happy when we did this, and I'm sure they're happy that he's out, but I just think that ultimately now, the new person who we think is going to go in there and be in charge of the country, he supported the same ideas as the president. They're the same. It was this. It's the same person, only not, but same ideas. So it's I feel like in the end, this isn't really gonna help Venezuela at all, and it's just taking away focus from America. Now I am gonna scroll down because I can't see my notes. But next thing that I want to talk about is the Carolina representative Doug LaMalfa. I'm probably saying that very wrong, but we're gonna talk about him and how he sadly did die. Now, he was a senator. He unexpectedly died. Also, this article was published the 6th, but he unexpectedly died. And he was a Republican. He was in the House. So this led, the numbers to be 218 to 213. Still Republicans, still are the majority in the House, but not by much. And it is expected for more Democrats to win come midterms. A lot of, we Democrats are expected to take over the House and be higher than the Republicans when it comes to the House. Now, basically, Newsom has 14 days to set a date for the election to fill in the seat that, is now empty. Now, this does not mean, though, that the seat is going to be filled. It's just the election date has to be set. So that seat could be empty for months. No one could come in and fill the seat. Another problem that also comes with this is Doug was, planning on re-election. So there's no major Republicans that were running for that seat because, yet again, he was supposed to go for re-election. So, and he's for Republicans. So why would Republicans, any big ones, really go against him and try to, so now it kind of leads to the who's gonna go in there, who's gonna fill in the spot, and I feel like there's a lot. Now, this article was very short and it was more about what happens when this happens, the steps, procedures, stuff like that. So I don't really have opinions on it. I just thought I would inform you guys because I feel like this was very informational, even for me, because I didn't know how it all worked. So it's more informational sake than news, I guess, if that makes sense. So I have to scroll down again because there's a lot of notes for this one. So Next thing we'll talk about is Trump inviting the, Colombian president to the US. This was published the 7th. So Trump said that him and, I'm going to butcher this name, but we're going to try it, Gustavo Petro exchanged a friendly conversation. They talked, they're fine with each other, and Trump even invited him to come to the US. Now, this is a little bit weird because a couple days ago, Trump said that Colombia is very sick too. And why he said too is because he was also talking about Venezuela at the time, so he said Colombia is also sick as well. And, obviously, this is big because Trump's showing that he's not maybe a fan of Colombia and what's going on there. And again, there's a lot of problems in Colombia, but it's weird how he made that comment and now it's like, oh yeah, we're friendly. We had a good conversation or whatever. And Petro said that the operation that was done in Venezuela was abhorrent violation of Latin American sovereignty. So yeah, this is just a big issue. Obviously Colombia was not here for what we did when it comes to Venezuela. And this can be a problem because we've had 3 decades where the US and Colombia have worked closely together. Colombia is one of the biggest countries when it comes to DRUGS. There's a lot that goes on there. A lot of them come out of Colombia. A lot of them, there's just a lot of them in Colombia. So the US working closely with Colombia to try to lower that number, control it. I think this whole idea, I do like how they're talking friendly or whatever. That's good because we don't want problems with Colombia. We want to be able to stay close with them, especially if they're one of the biggest countries when it comes to DRUGS. We want to be able to work closely with the government, be able to try to lower that number as much as possible. Now, Trump also said that he targeted suspected vessels that were from Colombia. So this can cause some issues, a little bit of tension between Colombia and the US because, coming after Colombian ships. Now, I will say it seems like we are fine with Colombia. We're expected. I think, like I said, he might come, whatever. So it definitely seems like things are fine with Colombia, and Trump did fix things with the president, and they seem like they're okay with each other based on what, like the information that was given, what was said, seems like everything's good, which is a good thing. Like I said, we don't want to have problems with Colombia. Even though they disagree with what we did when it came to Venezuela, I think that it's good that we stay on good terms with Colombia. And if we do, I think, you know what, it's fine. Whatever happened, happened. Whatever comments were made, were made. If we can stay okay with Colombia, then, I'm okay, I guess. I think some comments were a little bit, backhanded, but you know, Trump has a tendency to run his mouth and say things that he probably shouldn't a lot of the times, and I feel like this is definitely a prime example of that. Now, next I'm talking about, this is kind of a big one. So, basically, Denmark and Greenland's envoys meet with officials. So this was published the 8th. Sorry, I have to scroll out again. So basically, these envoys asked US lawmakers and Trump administration officers to back off of trying to get Greenland and Denmark. If you didn't know, Trump's trying to get Greenland and Denmark, more Greenland than Denmark, but recently Denmark. And it's, they want them to step back. They want the US to step back. They don't want to become part of the US. They want to stay their own country. They're content right now. And so I'm going to try saying these names. So Jesper Sorenus is Denmark. He was the Denmark ambassador. And Jacob is Bosen. Then that was butchered. He's Greenland's chief representative. They talk about trying to, how Trump is pushing to get these countries and how it's possible that the US would use military force. Now, this was made by a comment. This was according to Danish government officials, and they were not allowed to speak publicly on the issue, comment on it publicly. So it's kind of like, take that as you would. I'm not saying that's necessarily 100% accurate, and that's what the US said. That's what Trump said. That's just what Danish officials say what happened. Not saying they're wrong, not saying they're right. We don't fully know. So it's, believe it if you will. If not, then don't. So, Secretary of State Marco Rubio is expected to meet with Danish officials sometime next week to try to figure out things, sort things out. And I think, that's good, trying to, see what happens. Hopefully it ends well and it doesn't cause further issues. Now, Trump said to New York Times that he wanted the entirety of Greenland and not just like military posts that we already have in Greenland. We have a standing treaty with Greenland where we have military posts there, but Trump doesn't want that anymore. That's not enough for him. He wants the whole country of Greenland. And obviously Greenland is not here for it. They don't want to sell their country. They've said that. They don't want to sell their country, but Trump wants Greenland. He's not content with military posts that are in Greenland. Now, JD Vance also made a statement saying that, they should take the president seriously. Now, his comment was kind of weird because it was almost like it wasn't a threat, but it was kind of like, listen to the president, do what he says, or, maybe some problems. Basically, I'll, whatever. I have a quote, I'll, whatever. But yeah, I think it's I don't know. I don't like the idea of I get it. You're supposed to take the president seriously, but like, why are you coming after Greenland? Why are you coming after somebody who is in NATO? Now, Lisa, I'm gonna butcher this. Murkowski is Republican. She is from she's Alaska senator. Don't know what that word was. Just made a new word up, I guess. She is not fond of the idea. She is not in support of the idea of going after Greenland. She thinks it's bad. She doesn't see a whole lot of positives out of it. And yet again, this is a Republican who is disagreeing with Trump's actions and is vocally speaking that she doesn't support it. Now, this has caused tensions with some of our other allies. Earlier he mentioned about wanting Canada to become a 51st state. And that was like whatever. I think people took that more as a joke, as being serious. People, I don't think, took it very seriously. It wasn't like something that people actually thought was going to happen. It was like, oh, whatever. He's just being funny. And, nothing did come out of it. But now I think it's starting to cause problems. And people, like our allies, are starting to be like, why are they coming after Greenland? Why are they coming after Denmark? And it's causing tension. France is not happy about it. England's not happy with it. Italy's not happy with it. People are starting to the US is just causing problems when it comes to NATO, which you don't want. You really don't want problems with NATO. I mean? NATO was made so we have an alliance if anything ever went wrong. So that we are all together. We are working together as countries. And causing problems with NATO is just not worth it. It's not worth for what? For Greenland? Do we really need Greenland? I mean, let's be fully honest. Greenland is far away from us. It's not like. It's almost like when the British were in charge of like the colonies. We're across the ocean from Britain. They couldn't do anything. They can't like. You know what I mean? Like, Greenland, do you really think we're going to be able to do any? I mean, they can do whatever they want. We're going to be all the way over here. We are very far from Greenland. So, personally, I don't really think we should even be bothering Greenland or Denmark. Leave them alone. Let them be countries. They don't want to sell us. They don't want to sell the country to us. They've said it before. They've made these claims, and I don't know why we're continuing to push the issue, and we should just drop it and leave Greenland alone, leave Denmark alone, and leave Canada alone. I don't think we're really bothering Canada anymore, but still, leave those countries alone. You know what I mean? Leave all countries alone, actually. So, yeah, that's basically all of the news I have for you guys this week. I am very proud of myself that I actually did end up doing this. So back-to-back weeks. Fingers crossed next week I'll do it again. We'll just see, But there was a lot to talk about, so this video is a little bit longer. But yeah, so I hope you guys were able to learn something, maybe hear a new perspective on the ideas, or maybe you were able to form your own perspective just by hearing them. And I hope that you guys could take something away from this video. So yeah, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll talk to you guys in the next video. Bye!